Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, here you see one cylinder is shown, okay. So, this is one cylinder and you can see the piston, and this is the cooling water jacket, and here you have two thermocouples installed, okay. This is central unit which is called electronic control unit. As I told you, it is the brain of the engine which will get different data from different sensors, and based on that it will have maps embedded in it, and it will take certain decisions, and it will then actuate the actuators. So, ultimately in a port fuel injection, what do you like to actuate? You like to actuate start of injection, you like to actuate end of injection, and that way you can actuate combustion duration, that is what you actuate, and then you also actuate spark timing in SI engine. So, these are the main actuating elements, okay. So, this is a tank, okay. So, from the tank, this is the fuel pump. So, you pressurize the fuel, okay, and then it goes through a filter. Obviously, you do not want any fine particle to go into injectors because that will damage the injector, okay, and then the fuel goes into a pressure regulator because you have to control how much pressure you want to give, okay, and then it goes to something called a start valve. This is a injector, but this is a central injector, okay, and this goes to another injector. So, please imagine like this start valve is one single injector which is located centrally, and then there are 4 runners going into 4 different cylinders. So, this is one. So, this is just like a single point injection, okay, and it says start valve, that means it will be injecting the fuel only when you have to start the engine, and as I told you, if the engine is cold you have to do some mixture enrichment, and so the extra fuel is provided by this, okay, and then this is one of those valves which is located in each of the cylinders. So, if it is a 4 cylinder engine, you actually will have 5 injectors in it, 1 central and the 4, 1 in each manifold, okay. So, please notice this is ECU, and ECU is nothing but a microprocessor. So, when it needs data, the data should come through wires. So, please see here, fuel pump is connected to the ECU, okay. Then you see what is this wire, this is connected to the jacket temperature. So, this thermocouple input lets the ECU know that I am cold, right now the engine is cold, and when engine is cold, then it will actuate the start valve. This is also connected via the ECU, okay. Then you have this, you need to know, what is the air flow rate, because according to the air flow rate only you will be able to decide how much fuel should be injected, and for that you need to control the pressure and the injection timing, right. So, there is an arrangement by which you measure the air flow rate. How do you measure? So, there is a temperature sensor, density of the air depends on temperature. So, you should know what is the temperature. Then there is a throttle valve, okay. So, there is a throttle valve switch. So, basically it is a throttle body. So, if the throttle is pulled, this throttle body will change the throttle position, and it will let this know to the ECU. So, ECU will know that okay, now more power is expected, so I should dump in more amount of fuel, okay. And this is the auxiliary air device, it is not very important. Then this is the pressure sensor. So, in the manifold this pressure sensor will tell what is the pressure in the manifold. So, using the pressure, using the throttle valve position, using the temperature, and using the speed of the engine will calculate how much air is going into each cylinder, okay. And once it is calculated, then what this ECU will do, this is a battery which is giving power to everything, this is a distributor, why it is used, distributor in the engine is used to sequence the spark timing. So, every cylinder the spark should be given only at the end of compression, right. So since intake and compression strokes for each of the 4 cylinders, they are separated by 180 degree. Obviously, the sparks will also be timed by 180 degree. So this is connected to your crankshaft. Okay. So this also in a way tells the ECU what is the speed of the engine. Okay. Then all these calculations are done, and then it is decided that okay, how much quantity of the fuel should be put into the each of the cylinder, and the ECU will know what is the, so it will decide what is the pressure, and if it's the line pressure is 5 bar, and if it says okay I need only 4 bar, so this pressure regulator will allow only 4 bar to go, and remaining fuel will come back to the tank. You don't want to waste it. So this is then connected to the start valve. So 4 bar, and if it says that okay you have to open the injector for 2 milliseconds between say 30 crank angle degree before the top dead center to 10 degree after top dead center. So it will give a pulse to each of the solenoids and it will open. Okay. So this is how it works. So now you tell me if there is any doubt on this. So this is called speed density system, because here the mass flow rate is not calculated directly. What you are calculating, what you are using directly is speed of the engine and density of the air. Density of the air you are measuring by pressure and temperature data. So there will be a lookup table built in, and based on the temperature and pressure this will calculate how much is the mass of the air. Okay. So since the engine is calibrated to operate with a particular schedule of air fuel ratio, it is very important to know the air flow rate. This leads to 2 types of electronic fuel injection controls. The major difference between the 2 methods is in how to determine the air fuel flow rate. So here we are determining the air flow rate by measuring the speed and the density, and there can be another system where you are actually measuring the mass flow rate. So directly when you are measuring, your measurement will be more accurate, because suppose there are deposits here, this cannot account for this. Suppose there is a wear, it cannot take place, this system will be not sensitive to those. Whereas if you are measuring the mass flow rate directly, all those things will be accounted for in a direct measurement system. So different components of the speed density system, first of course is ECU, then fuel pressure regulator, then injection valves, then pressure sensors, then temperature sensor, start valve which is started only for say 20-30 seconds when you start the engine from the cold, and after that this does not supply the fuel anymore. Okay. And then you have electronic fuel pump, fuel filter, throttle valve. So these are some of the components, and I hope now you will understand how a speed density multi-point port fuel injection system works. This was developed by a company called Bosch. Okay, this particular type is since it is based on density, air measurement is based on density, it is called D-Jetronic system. Okay. So then the speed density system accepts input for sensors that measure engine speed and RPM and load, which is measured by manifold vacuum in the kilopascal, and then ECU calculates the airflow requirement by referring to a much larger programmable fuel table which is built in the ECU, okay, in the ECU memory. The fuel map consists of values that equate the engine's volumetric efficiency under varying condition to throttle position and engine speed. Engine RPM is provided by a signal from the distributor. The vacuum is transmitted via intake manifold mounted manifold air pressure sensor. Since density changes with air temperature, intake manifold mounted sensor is also used for measuring the air temperature. Now suppose you don't want to use this system and you are worried about the accuracy of the system. So later on this another system was developed which was called L-Jetronic system, and here the difference is that here the mass flow rate was directly measured rather than calculating via lookup tables which have vacuum and temperature and pressure measurements. You have direct measurement. So how it is done? So here you are using airflow meter to measure the air flow rate directly. The advantages are that dependence on volumetric efficiency on speed, exhaust back pressure is automatically accounted for. Okay. So if there is a volumetric efficiency change for some reason, it will be accounted for here, it will not be accounted for in the previous case. Okay. Then idling stability is better, lack of sensitivity of the system to exhaust gas recirculation since only the fresh air flow rate is measured and less acceleration enrichment is required. You have to enrich the fuel when you accelerate also. That requirement also goes down here. So here rest of the things are same. You see this is cylinder, again temperature sensors are located, this is the tank, electronic fuel pump. The difference, this is the ECU, distributor, battery, etc. Everything else remains same except this part. Okay, so this was the throttle position sensor you have, which is communicating to the ECU. Here this is the auxiliary air device, which is also not very important. This is the air mass flow sensor. So basically this is like a hinged system. You see here, this is a hinged system. So this is some kind of a flap which is hinged in the center. So when the air is moving in, what will happen? This is semicircular. So more air flow rate, more this will move like this, right? So more is the mass flow rate of the air, the more will be the deflection in the airflow sensor, and that is electronically measured and told to the ECU as an input. Okay, and that's how you do the direct measurement. Okay, so this is one simple example of L-Jetronic system, which is a significant improvement over D-Jetronic system. Now somebody may say that, okay, I don't like electronics. Okay, of course electronics give you lot of flexibility because you can build in lot of intelligence, you can put in a lot of maps. But so there is another type of mechanical system. So here this is called K-Jetronic system. So this is a mechanical fuel injection system which injects fuel continuously in front of the intake valve. So in electronic systems you are injecting in once in every cycle. K-Jetronic system, it will inject all the time. Okay, and the quantity of injection will be controlled by the flow rate through the injector. So here also the difference is that ECU is gone, this is the tank, fuel pump, fuel pressure, fuel accumulator, fuel filter, and then it goes to the injection valves, and this is the main heart of the system. So here the airflow is coming in, this is airflow sensor, and what is done here is that when the air is coming in, and this is the throttle body, so when the air is coming in, obviously this arm will lift, so more will be the air flow rate, more arm will lift, that means more air is going in, so more fuel has to go in, and this in turn will be here this is a distributor, fuel distributor. So suppose this is a 4-cylinder engine, so 4 such pipes will be going to each of the cylinder. Okay, and more this lifts, higher will be the fuel quantity going into each cylinder. So and this is continuous injection. Okay, so this is the K-Jetronic system. Okay, so those of you who are interested in knowing more about it, you can refer to the book by J.B. Haywood, and you can look at the chapter on SI engines. Details are given for all these 3 systems in IC Engine Fundamental by J.B. Haywood. So mass flow rate system basically uses mass airflow sensor, which is mounted in front of the throttle body, that directly measures the amount of air injected in the engine. Air mass meter also includes a temperature sensor that provides a correlation in the intake air temperature. Once the ECU knows the amount of air entering the system, it looks at other sensors to determine engine's current state of operation, whether it is idling, whether it is accelerating, whether it is in the cruise mode, deacceleration mode, operating mode, etc., and what is demanded from it by the driver. And then it refers to the electronic map to find an appropriate air to fuel ratio. So mass airflow systems are much more flexible in their ability to compensate for engine changes, since they actually measure the mass flow rate instead of computing it based on assumptions. So computation is done in D-Jetronic system, but L-Jetronic system, the computation is done there is no computation done, it is the direct measurement of air flow rate, and that is why they are more accurate and more flexible. So coming to fuel injection system in CI engines, it's also a pretty interesting area, because diesel engines are the workhorses of mobility, especially when it comes to group mobility and goods mobility. So nowhere you will find that for mobility of transport of large number of people, say bus, you will never find in a spark ignition engine, it will always be a compression ignition engine. Okay, so this is basically direct, diesel injection systems are one of the heart of the entire transportation system, and in fact in a way in the whole civilization. Okay. So the fuel should be introduced in the combustion chamber with a precisely defined period of the cycle. So diesel engines, since you are injecting directly in the cylinder, the timing, the pressure, the duration, everything becomes much more critical compared to spark ignition engine. Spark ignition engine, if you are in a port fuel injection mode, and if you inject 10 degree or 20 degree here and there, it doesn't matter too much in terms of emissions. But if you do that in the diesel engines, you may be completely off in terms of your meeting your emission requirements and efficiency requirements. Then rate of fuel injection is also very important. If you inject all the fuel at a very fast rate, you will have all the combustion taking place very suddenly, and the gas pressure will be sudden rise, and this will be impacting the gases will be impacting the piston with a greater force, and that will lead to rough engine operation. So rate of injection also is very important here. It should be controlled such that it results in desired heat release pattern. Heat release should not be too low, heat release should not be too high. If it is too low, then the duration will be longer, and then you will be releasing the heat when the piston has already gone down, and the efficiency will go down. But if you are releasing everything in one go, then it is going to lead to knocking and rough engine operation. So the quantities of the fuel meter should vary to meet the challenges of speed and load requirement. The injected fuel must be broken into fine droplets. Please understand one major difference between the fuel injection requirement of gasoline and diesel engine. In gasoline engine, particularly when I am talking about SI engine, the fuel injection system is supposed to prepare a homogeneous mixture, and you have plenty of time available to do that. In diesel engines, the fuel injection is done directly in the cylinder. So the liquid fuel has to vaporize, and that requires a lot of time, okay, because where it will get heat, latent heat of vaporization from the surrounding airs. That is why injection is done towards the end of the compression stroke, so that the air is hot enough, okay. And if your droplets are large, then they will not evaporate completely, and that will lead to incomplete combustion and formation of soot. If you want to avoid that, what do you want to do? You want to increase the fuel injection pressure somehow, and you have to generate very fine droplets. Smaller will be the droplets, better will be the combustion, because they will evaporate more quickly. And that is the reason why I mentioned that in diesel engine the fuel injection pressures start from 200 bar, they go all the way as on now to 2000 bar. That is why they are high, because the objective is to atomize everything very finely. So the fuel must be broken into very fine droplets, so good atomization can be obtained, okay. The spray pattern must be such that it results in rapid mixing of the fuel and air. So you should not take too much time in breaking the fuel, you should into small droplets. Those small droplets should actually mix very quickly with the air and form combustible mixture. If that does not happen, then what will happen? There will be lot of accumulation of fuel in the combustion chamber, and if there is lot of accumulation of fuel in the combustion chamber, the instant you have first combustion, it will lead to very high heat release, and that will lead to knocking. Knocking in a diesel engine happens in the beginning of combustion, right? So the beginning and end of the combustion should be sharp. You start the injection and you should have good spray, and you end the injection, you should have good spray, and it should be suddenly cut. If you don't cut, then what will happen? The large droplets will keep dribbling. You must have seen a tap. As soon as you open, if you open slowly, there will be large puddle coming out. If you open it quickly, there will be spray coming out, okay. So that spray, you have to make sure that there is no puddling, this puddling is called dribbling or after injection. That means once it is closed, no more fuel should come into the combustion chamber, because when this dribbling happens, the droplet will be very large, because it's just leaking, and if the droplet will be very large, it will lead to particulate formation, soot formation, okay. You should not allow even one drop to go out, because if that one drop you multiply it by number of injections, it may give you 10% penalty or 15% penalty or 15% mileage. So here when you are doing this, you have to calculate everything very precisely and make sure what you have calculated that much fuel should be injected in every cycle, not more. The injection timing, if desired, should change to suit the engine speed and load requirements. In case of multi-cylinder engine, the distribution of metered fuel among various cylinders should be uniform. So this is very important. If it is 4-cylinder engine or 6-cylinder engine, each of the cylinders should get exactly the same quantity. If you are giving 40 milligram, it should be 40 milligram in each cylinder, not 39 and 41. Because one that happens, suppose one cylinder is getting 41. So what will happen? It will getting more fuel, so it will generate more power. The second one, the neighboring one, is getting 39, so it will generate less torque. So this will rotate faster, instantaneous speed will be faster, and this instantaneous speed of this will be, second one will be lower. So what that will do? This will try to rotate fast, this will try to rotate slow. So it will twist the crankshaft, and once that twisting happens, that will lead to vibrations in the engine. Okay, so you can see, I mean, who can relate that, okay, 1 milligram of fuel, how can it affect the performance? But 1 milligram of extra fuel per cylinder in every cycle can really lead to large vibrations in the engine, and it can really be it can really prove the engine to be a bad engine. Okay. So in addition to those requirements, the weight and the size of the fuel injection system should be minimum. It should be noted, it should not be costly to manufacture and expensive to attend, adjust or repair. So this is also one of the important requirements. You know, whenever the maintenance, you should be able to check and fix it very quickly without being expensive. So what are the requirements? You know, I have discussed so many things. Let us look at what are the functional requirements that we expect from a fuel injection system in the context of diesel engines. So in the context of diesel engines, we want the fuel injection system to do pumping function. What is pumping function? So pumping function is to move the fuel from the fuel tank to the cylinder. Okay, so fuel should be able to flow from the tank to the cylinder. Then we expect metering requirement. You know, we want to measure and supply the fuel according to the requirement of the engine load and speed and precisely to each cylinder. Then metering controls. So metering control means to adjust the rate of metering element for changing and loads. So it should give at each load the precise quantity, but when it changes, it should adjust to change load conditions. Okay, and then distribution element. So distribution element, whatever metering is done, you know, it should split it into equal number of parts and send equal quantity into each cylinder. Okay, so this should divide and meter the fuel equally among all cylinders. There should be equal distribution. Unequal distribution will lead to problems. And then timing control, you should be able to inject the fuel precisely at right time, not 1 or 2 degrees ahead or not 1 or 2 degrees behind, and you should stop the injection at the time that that is decided. And then finally the most important requirement is mixing element. Whatever fuel you have decided to inject, it should be able to mix with the air. Okay, so that is, it should atomize and distribute the fuel within the combustion chamber so that it can mix. And these are, you know, although they look only 5 or 6 requirements, but these are very, very challenging. In fact, so this is these are some of the most challenging aspects of designing a diesel engine, which can meet all the emission requirements and also performance requirements. Nowadays, it's not just the emission requirement that people are trying to meet. It is also nowadays there's something called efficiency norms that have also been kicked in. So that means apart from efficiency, you also have to be efficient. Yeah, there are certain efficiency targets. So if you look at the type of the fuel injection systems, so there are 2 types of fuel injection systems that are used in diesel engine. So first is the air injection, the other one is solid injection. Air injection means that you are injecting the fuel with the help of compressed air. Okay, and if you are not using the air and just compressing the fuel, then it is called solid injection. Solid injection is again divided into 2 parts. One is called mechanical injection and then the other one is called electronic injection. Okay, so if you are controlling all the injection using mechanical systems, then it is mechanical injections. If you are using microprocessor to control this, then it is called electronic injection. Okay, So mechanical injection can be again 2-3 types. One is the individual pump system or jerk pump system, distributor system or common rail system. Electronic system is also divided into common rail system and unit injector system. So I will not go into details of all of them, but I will just introduce you in the first level course. I will just introduce you to all these systems very quickly, so that there is a fair appreciation of the entire landscape. So there is a direct injection systems of the diesel engine can be divided into two basic types. One is the air injection, the other one is solid injection. What is air injection? So the air injection is that the fuel is metered and pumped to the fuel valve by a camshaft driven fuel pump. The fuel valve is opened by means of mechanical linkage operated by camshaft, which controls the timing of the injection, and the fuel valve is also connected to high pressure air line, which is fed by multi-stage compressor which supplies air at pressure of 60 to 70 bar. So you have one line where the measured quantity of fuel is coming, another line from where the high pressure air is coming, and once the valve opens, you throw the fuel into the combustion chamber using high pressure air. When the fuel valve opens, the blast of the air sweeps the fuel along with it, and a well atomized fuel spray is sent into the combustion chamber. Obviously, since you are pushing the fuel with the help of air, the fuel will be atomized into very fine droplets and it will mix very well. How it happens? So this is one cylinder, this is another cylinder. Okay, this is the fuel injector. Okay, this is another fuel injector for the second one, and then there is a mechanical linkage. Mechanical linkage to open the valve, injection valve. Okay, and this is the fuel pump. Okay, so low pressure line, the low pressure fuel is coming here. This is operated by cam, so this will generate high pressure for the fuel. So this high pressure line comes here. Okay, and here you have a multi-stage compressor. So high pressure air will come into both of the cylinder, and the moment this mechanical linkage triggers, both fuel and air will be injected into this combustion chamber at the right time. Okay, clear? So this is the schematic of an air injection system. Of course, this is not used nowadays. It's more of historical perspective, because the pressures that are being used are very low, and this kind of a system is not able to meet the emission requirements. Okay. So the advantage of this kind of a system, air injection system, is it is able to obtain very good atomization. High mean effective pressure can be obtained, as rapid combustion results in good mixing of the fuel and air. And the best advantage of this particular system is that cheap fuels, which are heavy and viscous fuels, can be injected in the engine. Okay. The fuel pump that is required to develop only a small pressure. You are not required to develop pressures, crazy pressures such as 200 bar to 2000 bars. Okay, only small pressures are enough. But there are certain disadvantages. Obviously, you will need a high pressure multi-stage compressor, because you see, if you go to any compressor, look at the air compressors, normally the commercial compressors that are available can go in one stage up to 3 bar, 3 or 3.5, sometimes 4. So in one stage you can increase to 1 to 4, then second stage 4 to 16, then third stage 4 to 16 to 64, something like that's how it goes, and in between you have to put intercoolers in order to reduce the temperature of the air. So that once you have multi-stage compression, you have multi-stage intercooling as well, and that the whole package size actually increases quite a bit. So huge number of parts, intercoolers, etc., make the system very complicated and very expensive. So this is one of the main flip sides of this part of the system. And then a separate mechanical linkage is required to time the operation of the fuel valve. I showed you that here you have to have some kind of a mechanism by which you operate the valves, injection valves. Okay, so this mechanical linkage, whenever you have mechanical linkage, you always have a possibility of problems. Maintenance goes up. So the fuel in the combustion chamber burns very near to the injection nozzle, which many times leads to overheating of the injection nozzle, burning of the valve when it seats. So this is one of the other big problems. Okay. Sometimes there is sticking of the fuel valve. Fuel valve actually sticks to the seat, and the system becomes quite dangerous in the presence of high pressure air. So when that happens, this could lead to lot of issues. Second type of injection which is more commonly used for a very long time is solid injection. So here injection of fuel is done directly into the combustion chamber without primary atomization, and this is termed as solid injection. Okay. So this is also called airless injection because only fuel is injected through the nozzle, and this nozzle could be very small size. How small? This could be about 100 micron size, almost as thick as your hair. So that kind of a nozzle you have, and you apply very high pressure, the fuel flows through it, and when it passes through it and when it comes out in the open environment, which is at a relatively lower pressure, there is spray formation, atomization happens. So there are different types of modern solid fuel injection systems, and these are, for example, mechanical systems and electronic systems. As I said, there are three main mechanical systems: individual pump system, which are also called jerk pump systems, then there is common rail system, and then there is distribution system. So individual systems or jerk pump systems are one of the initial fuel injection systems developed for diesel engine about 100 years back. Okay. So here the separate metering and compression pumps are used for each cylinder. So that means each cylinder will have one metering system and one compression system. So a jerk pump is a reciprocal fuel pump which meters the fuel and also furnishes the injection pressure. So how it works? Say for example, you have two cylinders and you have two injectors, and here you have a fuel pump. So low pressure fuel comes in, here the pressure is developed, and from this pressure it comes to a distributor. So distributor will sequentially send the fuel into these high pressure lines, and then it is injected into each cylinder. Okay. It is also possible that you can have one dedicated fuel pump for each cylinder. Generally in genset engines, if you look at 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt gensets engines or agricultural pump sets, these kind of jerk pump systems are used, where you have one injector for every cylinder and also one fuel pump dedicated for each cylinder. So there is a separate pump and separate injector for each cylinder. The quantity and the time of injection is controlled by the pump itself. Each unit of the multi-unit pump is connected to the associate injector by a high pressure line, and for accurate timing and length of these pressure lines must be identical. So you have to make sure that you locate your pump system such that the distance between the fuel pump and the fuel injector is same. So pipeline length should be same. Otherwise, if one is short, one is long, the pressure waves will be travel faster in one and slower in another one. They will take longer time, and the injection timings will be affected. So this precaution has to be taken. The jerk pump system is universally used for medium and high speed diesel engines. In fact, in in small size engines also, jerk pump systems are very popularly used. So here is the system that I was telling you. The fuel is coming from the fuel tank. You have one filter, then you have low pressure pump, and then another filter. So here basically the pressure is very, very nominal, and the idea is that you should be able to, the fuel should be able to flow to the fuel pumps. And here you have fuel pumps. So here you have P1, that means pump for first cylinder, pump for the second cylinder, pump for the third and the fourth cylinder, and they are connected to injectors. So this N1 is injector for the first cylinder, second cylinder, third cylinder and fourth cylinder, and you have to make sure that these lengths are same for all these four systems. Okay. So this is how a jerk pump system overall looks like. Coming to common rail system is this particular common rail system that I am discussing is not exactly the same that you see in modern CRDI cars. In modern CRDI cars, what you see is a electronic CRDI system, but concept remains same. The only thing is that here what I am discussing, it's a mechanical CRDI system, and what you see nowadays, mechanical system is removed with a electronic system. So you have a bunch of sensors and actuators and ECU, just like what we discussed in PFI system. So a high pressure fuel pump delivers fuel to the fuel accumulator whose pressure is kept constant with the help of a pressure regulating valve. So, let us see what happens here. So, before I discuss, let me just discuss one more thing here. This particular system suffers from a major issue, and the major issue is that these are 4 different pumps, okay, and whatever you can do, there will always be problem with the mechanical tolerances of the components of this. So, that means when you operate these 4 valves, even they are manufactured in the same batch in the same factory, the output pressure from each of the 4 will be not same, okay, and you are controlling this opening and closing. So, that means now each of the cylinder will not get exactly the same quantity that you would like to have. There will always be some variation because of the very nature of this system, okay, and therefore it will lead to noise and vibration. So, in order to avoid this common rail system is used. So, in common rail system what you do is you have this pump, multi-cylinder high pressure pump. So, there could be multi cylinders inside the pumps which are pushing the fuel, but then ultimately the fuel comes to accumulator. So, one accumulator is nothing but a high pressure tank. So, it is a very solid tank which can hold the fuel, significant quantity of fuel at very high pressure, the same pressure as what you want to inject the fuel. So, if you are injecting the fuel at 1000 bar, this accumulator can store say about 200 ml or 100 ml fuel at 1000 bar, okay. So, from this it goes to the injector. So, now from this it is going to the second injector, there could be third injector, fourth injector. The advantage here is that each of the cylinder is now getting the fuel supply at the same pressure. Now it boils down to opening and closing. So, you can do that reasonably well, reasonably equally in all cylinders. So, that means you can ensure now that each of the cylinders is getting the same quantity of fuel, right, and that will actually increase the comfort in the ride, or the engine vibrations will be significantly lower. That is one of the major advantage of this particular technology. A high pressure fuel pump delivers fuel to an accumulator whose pressure is kept constant with the help of pressure regulating valve. The high pressure pump usually has a number of plungers, and unlike the individual pumps, none of the plunger is identified for a particular cylinder. The supply pressure of the fuel is independent of the speed, and hence it is not affected by the fuel pump, okay. As the speed is reduced, the metering elements opening remains open for longer period because the speed has reduced, and therefore the quantity of fuel supplied per stroke tends to increase, and this system therefore is self governing. That means when the speed falls for some reason, it will try to back it up, okay. So, the advantage of this system is this is simple and easy to maintain. It can control fuel supply as per load and speed, and it has only one pump required for a multi-cylinder engine. You need not have 10 pumps for 10 cylinders, okay. The disadvantage is this system requires very accurate design. So, precision required in this system is much higher, and there is no chance of developing a leak at the valve seat. Injection pressures are in the range of 200, 300, 500 bars. Mechanical systems can be reasonably high pressure, but common rail systems that are used today are much higher pressure. They have gone up to, commercial systems are 1800, 2000 bars are available today, but those are not mechanical CRDI systems, those are electronic CRDI systems. The main disadvantage of common rail system is that in case of injection needle sticking in an open position, an excess amount of fuel may be injected into the cylinder, okay. So, this is the schematic of a common rail system. Mechanical again, what we have discussed. So, you see here, this is the fuel that is coming from the tank, and from here, it's a high pressure pump, and the high pressure pump will generate high pressure which will go to the accumulator, and this is the pressure relief valve. So, suppose pressure becomes more, then it will drain the fuel which will go back to the tank, and from here there are all cylinders are connected. Suppose it's a 4 cylinder, so 4 lines will go from this accumulator So one of these line, for example, is going to this one injector, okay, and there is a valve seat here. This is the needle, valve needle. It has to lift up in order to inject the fuel. So this is basically, there is a cam and follower. So according to the design of the cam, this pressure is created, this is going to lift against the force of the spring, and when it lifts, this high pressure fuel will be coming into the cylinder, and when it goes down, this spring is going to close it. Okay, so this is how a common rail system actually works, mechanical common rail system. And once you introduce intelligence in it, this will become electronic common rail system. If this mechanical system is changed with a solenoid valve, then it becomes electronic CRDI system. Then the third mechanical system is called distributor system. So distributor system, in this system, a pump which pressurizes fuel also meters it and time etc. So all the functions are performed by the fuel pump itself. It will pressurize, it will meter, it will time. So basically what remains is just a spring loaded valve. Once the pressure creates and spring pressure is overcome, the fuel injection will take place. So entirely, all these three functions are the responsibility of fuel pump. The fuel pump, after metering the required amount of the fuel, supplies it to a rotating distributor at the correct time for supply to each of the cylinder. The number of injections per stroke, number of injection strokes per cycle for a pump is equal to number of cylinders. So that means if it is a 4-cylinder engine, this particular system will inject 4 times in 720-degree rotation of the crankshaft. Since there is only one metering element, a uniform distribution is automatically ensured. Uniform. So there is one distributor which is supplying to everyone. So obviously the fuel quantity that is being supplied will be same. One of the economical advantage of this type of system is the cost of the fuel injection system also reduces to a value less than 2/3 of the individual pump system. So we have seen the first type, the jerk pump type. So suppose you want to have 4 individual jerk pumps, compared to this will be 30%, 35% cheaper system, and that's what matters, when you are making a vehicle in mass production, it matters quite a lot. Okay, so here you have the high pressure pump, low pressure fuel is coming in, pressure is being generated, and the same metering element is supplying to different injectors. So this is what is seen here also. So this is the fuel coming in from the tank. These are the 2-stage filtration. It is connected to the gear drive. This is going into this pump system. There is a cam here. There is a control rack which controls how much quantity needs to be injected in each of the cylinder. And this is the metering and pressurizing pump. So what it is doing, it is creating pressure only, and then it goes to the distributor block. And this distributor block has only one element. So that element actually distributes to this this distributes the fuel, the same element distributes the fuel to all cylinders through these different pipelines. Okay, since the same element is distributing to different pipelines, that means the quantity will be same. Okay, so the fuel goes into the cylinder via these high pressure pipelines. Okay. So now let's look at the summary of the air injection systems and solid injection systems. So basically we are summarizing the mechanical fuel injection systems. So as we have discussed in the beginning, the expectations from the fuel pump system is that it should meter, it should time, it should control the injection rates, it should atomize, and it should distribute in the combustion chamber. So in the air injection system, metering is done by the pump, timing is done by the fuel cam, injection is controlled by the spray valve, atomization is done by the spray valve, and distribution is done by the spray valve. In solid injection system, individual pump system, metering is done by the pump, timing and injection is done by pump cam, and atomization is done by spray tip. In common rail system, metering is done by injection valve, timing is done by the fuel cam, injection rate is done by the spray valve, atomization distribution done by spray tip. Distributor system, metering is done by the pump, timing and injection is done by the fuel cam, and in a way with the distributor it does this function. Atomization is done by the spray tip. spray tip is here. Okay. So this is the overall landscape of the mechanical fuel injection systems. Now coming to electronic fuel injection systems, which I will not go into great detail, but just on a introduction, there are two approaches for electronic control of the engine. So first approach is to use the memory for storing the optimum value of the variables. So the concept here is that suppose I'm producing 1,000,000 engines a year, or say 100,000 engines a year. Do I want to test every engine or optimize every engine separately, or I do something smart to do it once? So what is done is that you take one engine and then you optimize. Say for example, you do tests that okay, if I am injecting at 600 bar for this particular load and speed, then I change the pressure to 700 bar, 800 bar, 900 bar, and I do a lot of experiments with say changing the injection timing, and I find out that okay, for this particular 25% load, if I inject at say 700 bar, start of injection is 20 degree before top dead center, and so on and so forth. I decide parameters which are optimum, okay, and so that way I decide for one condition. So I decide for all the possible load speed combinations. So I optimize my fuel injection timing for each engine operating point, okay. So that means now I have a 3D map prepared for different parameters, and depending on my expectation, if I put that map in a microprocessor, whenever the signals are coming, demand is coming from the driver, and speed and load conditions and temperature and acceleration, deceleration conditions, cruising conditions, when all those inputs come, now my microprocessor knows what to do, what is the optimum operating condition, accordingly it will start injecting the fuel. So a 3D map is prepared, not just a map, it is a set of maps that are prepared, and those are built in the memory, and then the next thing you have to do is just flash the memory for each of the production engines. So it is just like writing a program, copying a program into 1,000,000 or 100,000 microprocessors and just installing it, and then each of the engine will behave more or less in the same way. The only variation could be because of the variations in the production tolerances, right. So that is how we try to actually do this. So the second approach is to use adaptive or self-tuning tuning control system to continuously optimize the engine at each operating point. The advantage of electronic engine management system EMS are that you have significantly greater control on variables such as ignition timing, injection timing, mixture strengths, and this manifests to basically reduction in fuel consumption as well as emissions. So the engines which are actually having electronic injection control systems, they are far more flexible compared to mechanical fuel injection systems. They are far more energy efficient, and they are far more emission compliant, okay. And this introduction of electronic injection, which started about 20-30 years back, has actually revolutionized the engine technology and made the engine significantly cleaner, okay. So in fact nowadays if you look at most of the engines that are being developed, even people try to introduce electronics into even cheap engines, because electronics has also become very cheap and accessible. There are many all these components and all this manpower to do that is also easily available, and it provides you a huge flexibility in managing the engine. Okay, I think I will stop here and I will take the class tomorrow from here onwards, okay.